He's going all the way. 20, 15, 10. Touchdown. Texas Tech takes home the victory.
Welcome to another episode of the Broadway Shuffle. On today's episode, we will get into the week that was in the Big 12 and look forward to Texas Tech against West Virginia. We're going to overreact to the CFP and the Big 12. And then should we be concerned about Tech basketball? We'll get into that later in the show after their 1-1 week down in the Bahamas. But we hope everyone had a great weekend, enjoyed the bye week. But it is officially Texas Tech headed to Morgantown for the last game of the year. Guys, I'm sad. This is our last full week of regular season football. This season flew by, but what a season it was. And you enter what is probably your biggest week in your program's history. 10-1, going with a chance to clinch your first ever Big 12 title berth game. We still got to win the game, but it's there. And boy, were there a lot of moving parts in the Big 12 this weekend. With Conrad, Clayton, and Zyler, I am Brennan. And hey, if this is your first time here, whether on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or Texas Tech Plus, we are so glad that you are here and hope that you join us by subscribing and liking the message so you never miss any episodes of the Broadway Shuffle. So, Conrad, going to go to you first here, man. Great weekend. Bye. You can kick your feet up, relax, watch some Big 12 football, SEC football, I guess, if it's your TV there in your living room. We know you don't watch too much Big 12 football, but great weekend for Texas Tech to have the week off, see kind of some dominoes fall within the conference. Your thoughts on the overall slate that was in the Big 12 this past weekend?
Yeah, I'll go broader than that. I mean, college football, it was a good Saturday. It was fun to watch football on Saturday. I mean, you said to kick your feet up and relax. I mean, to be fair, there really haven't been that many Saturdays for Texas Tech that have been that stressful, to be honest. I mean, I can only really think of one, maybe two that have caused any stress for me, but it was a good weekend of college football. It's crazy that it's almost over in the sense of the regular season, right? And this is the biggest week for Texas Tech football ever, but after the win this Saturday, then next week will be the biggest week ever, and so on it'll go, because this season, in my opinion, if it finishes the way we think it can, is truly going to be the best season ever in Texas Tech football history. So was excited to see some good games yesterday. Also some bad games. We'll talk about that on the episode, but good day of football for college football and for Texas Tech as a whole. Although you wish you would have been able to clinch a spot in the Big 12 title, but that'll be okay because we'll take care of business in Morgantown on Saturday.
Clayton, Conrad makes a great point that this has just flown by, but you haven't really had to stress too much. You think that's part of the reason that you're able, this for the first time in a while, you're able to pretty much relax as a Texas Tech fan, enjoy a 10-1 record up to this point. It has been smooth sailing so far, but we have entered what is now, I think it's right. I think it's fitting. I mean, would you agree this is the biggest week in your program's history with what is on the line?
Yeah, I guess so. Considering, you lose and basically all your goals that you set out may be gone to achieve at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I think like from here on out, basically every week is the biggest week in your program's history. And it is true that it feels like it's flown by. There's definitely been seasons in the past where I couldn't wait for the season to be over. But when you think about like how long, not that I'm expecting Tech to necessarily make it to the national championship game, but that game is still like a month and a half away. So for at least two teams, there's still a long way to go less than the season. Hopefully Tech is one of those.
Great point. Z, what do you think, man? I mean, here we are. We've made it to the last week of the year. Everything we talked about prior to the season of, are you going to get to 9 wins? Are you going to get to 10 wins? Well, you finally get to Arlington. It's right here in front of us this week.
Yeah, and if you just look at the numbers, it looks like it's going to be a BYU Texas Tech rematch. I think that's 80% likely, what according to the numbers. Something that I thought was fun, at least in the Big 12 today, was I got to kick up my feet and relax this past week, but so did Dave Aranda. It looks like he didn't do any game planning, any scouting, any sort of preparation.
Don't steal my thunder.
Once again, beat by 3 scores, but don't worry, folks. He is coming back. He's 36-36 over a 6-year career. I'd love to see an athletic department like that just really take the initiative and make sure that they don't settle for mediocrity. Thought that was really funny. To announce that he's returning and then watch them get blown out by an unranked team on the road was really funny. So it was fun to enjoy the games. I feel very vindicated in my OU take. That is not a good football team. I feel very strongly about that. That's a really good defense. That offense is horrible. I mean, truly, it's horrible. That won't be a team that wins a playoff game unless they get a G6 or an ACC team, and you can take that to the bank. So, yeah, it was fun, though. It's fun to be able to just watch and not have to worry about tech.
Zyler, to that point, I don't know if you saw, but I posted your OU rants on our social media accounts. And on TikTok, we probably had roughly 20 to 30 people say, man, they should make podcast equipment more expensive after that take. So a lot of people don't agree with you, but I do. I mean, I do. And hey, we're here to keep you, start your own podcast if you think we're wrong here about OU football. But I did think that was funny because I thought it was great. I thought you gave great insight to it, but a lot of people seem to disagree. But we'll see what happens. That's why you play the game, right? Well,
yes.
Let's go first to the Big 12 and what happened over the weekend. We talked about it. Some of these huge games. The Utah game against Kansas State was wild, and I think we should start with that game. Kansas State runs for a program record 450 yards, felt like a million. Utah, what is one of the better defenses in the country, looked completely lost, but yet Devin Dampier used his legs, found a way to win to keep Utah in the hunt. Does that hurt Utah? I mean, are we going to expect Utah to drop tomorrow night in the CFP rankings, or is a win at this point? Because it seems like style points do matter.
I would say they should drop, to me. I mean, allowing 47 points against Kansas State, a team that really has not been worth anything all year, in my opinion. I don't know how you don't drop them. I mean, a little bit. I mean, they were a 5-5 team. Now they're 5-6. Doing what they did to that Utah defense again. We did something similar, but at the same time, Utah looked a little bit better in that game, obviously, I think, than they did against this game, allowing 47 points. So I would expect them to drop. I think style points matter, but again, that's just my opinion.
Style points are going to be selectively applied here. A&M didn't drop after spotting a 30-3 lead to South Carolina, a team that's 3-8, or what are they, 4-7?
Yeah, but
now?
South Carolina plays in the SEC, Zyler. Don't forget the bias of the committee.
I'm just saying, all I would ask for is consistency. Do I think Utah's chances at being in the CFP or the Big 12 title pretty much gone? There's also no outcomes where you play Utah in the Big 12 title game. So you cannot match up with Utah. If you are in the Big 12 title, your opponent will not be Utah. So it'll either be Arizona State or BYU. Yeah, tough. I mean, but what a wild game. Like, Kansas State has not been able to generate explosive runs that weren't from Avery Johnson all season. And then Joe Jackson goes for 250 plus,
293,
almost doubled the season total.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that was unbelievable. And I texted you guys right before the game. I said Utah is about to go in raw, and that did not happen. Credit to K-State, man. They should have won that game. Somehow found a way to lose it. I would be institutionalized if I was a K-State fan after this season, just having to watch all of this. Just brutal season for the Wildcats.
Hey, yeah, Devin Dampier looked decent.
Dampier did look decent, Clayton, your favorite quarterback in the Big 12.
Hey, I'm not a Devin Dampier hater. I think he's actually solid, but yeah, I can't believe K-State lost that game, man. The 2-point conversion that went the other way for Utah, I think, was like what really did it. And I mean, it was a 4-point deficit in the end, so that was tough to see. But yeah, I mean, Dampier I feel like he looks good against bad defenses, but whenever he plays a defense like BYU or BYU or Tech, it's a different story. But I saw Utah fans on.
I did not think he looked good at all. Like, I've not watched a Devin Dampier game and thought, wow, this guy's a really great thrower of the football. I've yet to see a game that I'm like, yeah, this guy can definitely make every throw.
He made one throw that was great, but that's all I saw.
Yeah, he had that one ball, I think it was to Larry Simmons, or maybe it was Whittemore. I can't remember who it was, down the left side. But he's just not a good thrower of the football.
Yeah, it's not always pretty, but his stats against bad defenses are pretty solid. But I saw Utah fans on Twitter comparing their margin of victories against common opponents with BYU. And like, dude, that is genuinely embarrassing. Like, Utah fans need to have more like shame and embarrassment for what they say on Twitter. Like, you played BYU and you lost. Why are we comparing the margin of victory against Colorado?
It does seem like that fan base is probably the most obnoxious in the conference, and think that they're better. Utah's a good team. I mean, I'm not discrediting Utah, but the fan base thinks that the games they've played and lost to, i.e. BYU and Tech, don't matter. You've lost to the two best teams in the conference. There's a reason you're 9-2. But this does help Texas Tech, I feel like. We want Utah to win, right? Like, we want Utah to be 10-2. We want them to be in the top 12 because it's just another top 12 win on the road against a very good team the committee deems to be in the top 15, and deservedly so. So I thought this was a good outcome for Texas Tech. If you get into scenarios where you lose the Big 12 championship game or something happens in Morgantown and you're comparing a 10-2 resume, it's good for Texas Tech and BYU, or excuse me, Utah and BYU to be 11-1 and 10-2 at the end of this week.
I agree.
Conrad, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it. I mean, I'm not. It's just one of those things when you look at teams that you beat, and then you see them do well on the back end, it just vindicates your team even more. And I think that's what Tech fans should be rooting for. I think that's what I'm rooting for. It's just one of those things that you want, at least in this day and age, you want your resume, you want all of those things to stack in your favor because of how the committee weights certain wins in certain places. And so I think as a Tech fan, you definitely want this to go well for you. I think it is going to go well. I mean, Utah, again, Utah and both BYU, they're good football teams. Like, I don't think any one of us would disrespect them. I don't think the Tech staff or Tech players would disrespect them, even though we beat both of them, and hopefully we'll beat BYU here in the next week or so again. But at the same time, it's good for the conference and it is good for national perception, which does matter a lot for the College Football Playoff Committee.
So let's get to two other results that matter quickly, and then we can talk more BYU. But BYU does beat Cincinnati, so that eliminates Cincinnati from the Big 12 race. And then Houston loses at home to TCU, so bye-bye Houston Cougars as well. So, and then Arizona State does knock off Colorado. Colorado hung in there for a half, but that's a bad football team, man. That was actually my first time watching Colorado this year, and I was like, what are we doing here? This was bad scene if you're a Buffalo fan. It'll be interesting to see if Deion Sanders sticks around. Conrad, go ahead.
You said bad scene if you're a Colorado fan? Brennan,
they're here.
I don't think any of those exist anymore. They're all gone. They all went to the Jaguars or the Browns. They don't exist.
We had a few buffs subscribe to the channel back in the Pillsbury Doughboy heyday a year ago. I remember a couple of subscribers from that Colorado episode, Conrad. That's where your legend was born, was because of Colorado.
Yeah, I don't know if it was about Colorado as much as it was, Texas Tech playing in a big game, but I'm not going to give any credit to the Colorado Buffaloes for the growth of this podcast.
That's fair. Well, so they lose. So Arizona State stays in the hunt. So now you're looking at officially a 4-team race: Utah, BYU, Texas Tech, and Arizona State, depending on things that happen. BYU gets Central Florida at home. We've seen the Knights. Not too concerned that BYU is not going to be able to get that done at home. So looks like BYU will be clinching a spot. And then you get West Virginia, obviously one of the worst teams in the Big 12 as well. But looking ahead to Morgantown, we're going to get into our preview episode on Thursday, so we'll talk about it then. But the weather looks dicey. It's going to be cold. It's Morgantown in November. It's an 11 a.m. kick. That was announced, obviously, this weekend. And so when we're looking ahead to this, I know we're going to get into the entirety of the game, but BYU, Texas Tech look like the heavy favorites. If you're Arizona State, you get Arizona on Friday. So there's a chance that Texas Tech has this locked in by the time you're kicking off against West Virginia Saturday morning. Thoughts on those teams' performances, Arizona State, BYU, and then we talked about Utah. What do we see from those teams? And then are you hoping to get BYU again, or are you hoping for a Jeff Sims Arizona State-led team? What way would you like this to go if you had it 100% your way?
I'd probably prefer BYU just because that's a better team. And so, on the chance that you lose the game, I don't think you'd be punished as badly. And I still feel, confident that you could beat them on a neutral field again. I do want to avenge the ASU loss, but I feel like with Jeff Sims at QB, it just wouldn't really matter, as much as you would want it to. So I'd probably prefer BYU.
Did anybody see that Jeff Sims attempted shovel pass that got intercepted?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where he just didn't throw it hard enough and the linebacker just got it.
But I'd like to play that.
Yeah, I would take Jeff Sims, but I think BYU is who you're going to match up against. It is so funny. We said before the end of the year, we're like, man, really hope the end of the season doesn't come down to a cold, blustery day in Morgantown at the end of November. And, look what you have, a cold, blustery day. in Morgantown at the end of November will kind of decide your season. So it'll be interesting. That's not been a place that's been, very kind to you over the years. I don't know that Joey's ever won there. I don't remember. I can't recall what happened in the 22 season.
Remember that's when Shuck broke his fibula,
broke his ankle.
and then Barron comes in and hurts his shoulder. I mean, that was like the worst case scenario. That was 23, I think.
That was 23. Did we play them? So we must have played them at home in 22.
Yeah, and then we smoked them at home last year on Senior Day.
Yeah. And we'll get into the preview of that. It is going to be interesting. I think that the BYU matchup would be a lot of fun. It's so awesome, and it's going to be so hard. I was thinking about this. Being in the national conversation in college football is not something that we have been accustomed to over the last 10 to 15 years. There's just no escaping that. Being in this spot and how fun it is, it's going to be very hard to replicate this kind of success year over year over year. Like even the best teams and the best like SEC team, like LSU has won 3 or 4 national titles this millennia, and they're out of the top 20. It's hard to maintain this success. We've tasted it now, and I'm just thinking it's going to be so interesting when you're not in the Big 12 conversation or something on the last week of the season, what that's going to be like now that you've actually tasted it and seen. So just kind of interesting
Zyler,
stuff.
That's not going to happen. This is the new era of college athletics at Texas Tech. That's not going to happen every year. Big 12 championship. We're going to be the OU of the mid 2010s. I will say I want Arizona State. I'll say that, and for the sole reason that so many people have said, well, Texas Tech lost to Arizona State, and it's like, yeah, and it was on the road with our backup quarterback who, while he's a good player, is not at the level of our starting quarterback. Let's go get them with their backup quarterback and kind of take them out to the woodshed and show them who we are. So I want it for that reason, because Texas Tech, without question in my mind, is a much better football team than Arizona State. And so I kind of want to avenge that and make that wrong right. So I'd take Arizona State. I will say the environment in AT&T Stadium, if it's BYU, will be much better than Arizona State. We were at the Big 12 championship game last year when Iowa State played Arizona State, and there were maybe 20,000 Arizona State fans there. I mean, it was not the environment you want to play in. So BYU would be better for that sake, but I really want to avenge that loss to kind of show the country, hey, this Arizona State team, while they did make it here, if in fact they do, they're not actually that great of a team, and they shouldn't have beat us the first time.
So for that to happen, you would need BYU to lose, obviously. Yeah. You can't even play Utah, Zyler, to your point that you said. So is that it then? If BYU loses and you win and Arizona State wins, is that it? I mean, are you getting the Sun Devils?
Yeah. Let me pull it up. I don't remember because Arizona State and BYU have not played, but Arizona State has the win over what would be the top team in the conference, and I think that's either 3rd or 4th on the tiebreaker list.
Yeah, they would be. Yeah, if BYU loses, they would be in.
Okay, so that's
the only way.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think
maybe if we lost,
and then
but Utah lost.
If we're talking about Texas Tech playing Arizona State, that would be the scenario. So that makes sense.
Yeah, assuming Utah wins, yes.
Okay. So it's possible. It is. I will say credit to Arizona State, because when the Leavitt news broke, you're kind of thinking this team's dead in the water. Now their schedule hasn't been that difficult, but still to go win 3 games in a row and to be in this position with Sam Leavitt out most of the year, really, and Jordan Tyson out as well too. I do feel like it's been something of a surprise that Arizona State, and maybe credit to Kenny Dillingham and that staff, that they're still here at last week of the season with a chance to clinch. But it doesn't matter, man. All you got to do is take care of business in Morgantown. So,
Brennan, quick question. And I think this is a tricky question. I'm trying to take the Texas Tech blinders off. Who do you guys is the Big 12 coach of the year? Let's say the season ended today.
It should be Joey, 100%.
It's Joey.
It should be Joey, 100%.
I saw this debate on Twitter. I saw people vouching for Dillingham. That I would hear an argument for Brent Brennan, but not for Dillingham. I know his quarterback got injured.
I think Sataki has a better case than Brennan. You lose your starting quarterback, you lose all those seniors from last year, you bring in a true freshman, and you've lost. I don't know. I'm trying to argue the other Joey sides, because I think he's I don't know. The Big 12 Coach of the Year is always such an interesting word. Is it the team that overachieved the most, or is it the coach of the best team? And I can't ever decide which.
Well, either way you look at it, I feel like Joey has an argument.
Yeah.
It's easy to go back and say, "Oh, well, look at Tech's roster," but I mean, we are like 24th in the preseason poll. Nobody picked us to win the conference. In hindsight, we have a much better roster than pretty much every team in the Big 12, but I don't think people saw it that way going into the year.
I don't know, because I think Brent Brennan has a legitimate case too. That team was horrible last year, like legitimately worse than their record, and they're on the cusp of a 9-win season.
Yeah, if they beat Arizona State on Friday, they'll be 9-3, and they'll finish 5th in the Big 12 because of that tiebreaker. So
yeah.
But at the same time, with how we've seen portal roster rebuilds go in this era of college football, what Joey has done has been, nothing short of remarkable. With this amount of talent, yes, I understand the talent, but getting it to gel like it has, I don't see, especially if you go 11-1, win the Big 12 or 12-1, win the Big 12 championship, and then get say you get the 4 spot or the 5 spot. It's just, I don't even think it's really a conversation. I think you can make arguments for other guys. They don't bear much weight for me compared to what Joey's done this year.
I do feel like, Zyler, this is such a national driven conversation too. Like who's the hottest guy in the room, right? What team is the sexiest team in the room? And to me, this feels like Texas Tech is getting all the love. They're getting all the attention. If you go 11-1, they're going to give it to Joey. He's deserving of it. I'm not saying they're just going to give it to him like Joey doesn't deserve it, but even over a Sataki. And what's crazy is that BYU is now 21-3 in their last 24 games. That's 5th best in the country total across the last 2 seasons. So Sataki would deserve it as well too. And I would argue that with a true freshman quarterback and Bear, and you got one of the best running backs in the conference too, in LJ Martin. But what he's done with that team is phenomenal. But then Texas Tech beat BYU. And so it's kind of like, well, you want to get into the head-to-head thing at home, but you still have the win over them. And so I feel like Joey McGuire is going to be the conference coach of the year. He deserves it. But but so does Sataki, and so does Brent Brennan. He's got a great name, beautiful last name, that head coach in Arizona has. So it'll be interesting. And Arizona, man, credit to them too. 8-3 coming off no one's talking about them. Zyler, you mentioned a few weeks ago on an episode that you thought Arizona was maybe the 3rd or 4th best team in the conference, and
I think they are.
They're playing like it, and so it's hopefully they beat Arizona State so we can kick our feet up, and we still need to beat West Virginia, but at least no matter what, we're going to play for a spot in Arlington. So we'll see what happens on Friday, but it is going to be a really interesting conversation. I wanted to ask you guys this too, because I was thinking about this during the bye week. What did we think of Jacob Rodriguez going to Big Noon, BYU Cincy? I just found it weird, like that a player from another team within the conference is being hyped up at a interconference game. Like that would be like old Big 12, them sending Colt McCoy to Lubbock or something for like during his bye week to hype him up for the Heisman. Did you guys find that odd? Like great for Jacob. I'm glad we're getting the love, but it was just weird to me to see it.
Yeah, I found it kind of weird. If I was a Cincy fan and like Big Noon's in Cincinnati and they're bringing a conference player, like you said, to a hard game, I'd be kind of mad. But as a Tech fan's perspective, I'm all
like you're getting all the national. Yeah, you're getting the national love, and he's doing the Heisman pose with RG3 and Matt Leinart and Mark Ingram, and they're like Fox are just pushing it. Like it's like they're totally pushing it. But I just found that a little weird for a big rivalry game to have a dude that's beaten you. It was still very much playing, coming to your bye week to be on the set of Big Noon. I don't know.
Like, did they charter him to Cincy, or was he like on a Southwest flight?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I watched that. That was one of the weirdest things I saw all weekend, because I was doing the radio and I look up on the TV and I see Jacob Rodriguez at BYU Cincy. I'm like, what are we doing here? In a cowboy hat and doing the Heisman pose, but great PR for Tech. I'm all for it.
So speaking of that
running for
Cincinnati
Heisman,
game, that Cincinnati game, thoughts on that? The BYU
just has a way of like making the other team do some terrible things. Like and credit to BYU for putting himself in position to like take advantage and win those games. But since he's kicker, I think had missed like 2 kicks all season. He goes 0 for 3. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, tough. I will say Brendan Sorsby, man, that guy has a cannon of an arm. He's mobile. He's going to look really, really good in red and black next year, and I cannot wait.
He looked good in black on Saturday night, man. They had the all black out there in Cincy.
Yeah, no, he's a good player. I mean, that's really the only reason I was watching that game, to be completely honest with everybody. But just looking at Texas Tech 2026 starting quarterback, so that's my dream for next year.
One thing that's funny, and I think Clayton brought this up a couple of weeks ago, like 2024, 23, and 22, we used to think that every quarterback in the Big 12, they were just gods because we would watch full games of them when they played Tech. It's like everyone's throwing for 300 yards. Like they all looked amazing. Now they play our defense, and I watch a full game of them. I'm like, dude, these quarterbacks all suck. And it's not the quarterback skill has not changed. It's just our defense's skill has changed. Like Bear against Tech was just completely ineffective.
Terrible.
And I don't really think that was an indication on Bear's ability to play the quarterback position. I think it's much more of an indication on what your defense does. And you haven't had a quarterback look great against you all year. I mean, Levitt hit a lot of deep shots against you, but it wasn't
pretty. It wasn't effective. It wasn't efficient.
Jalen Daniels had a few drives there in the middle of that second quarter that he looked good, but other than that, it wasn't great that whole game.
And that's not a knock on Big 12 QBs. I think it's a compliment to Shield and a compliment to our secondary, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny we talked about that. Josh Hoover, man. Also, what has happened to that guy? Like,
he threw 3 picks, I think, right? He looked bad against Houston. Very bad. But they found a way to squeak out that win. Houston, another team too. We'll say why we're just kind of touching every Big 12 game real quick. For them to get 8 wins this year, credit to them as well too, to kind of stay competitive in November. But I will say I watched Bear. The physicality that he runs with, he does put himself in harm. I mean, he almost broke his collarbone there in the fourth quarter by like running right into a dude. But he made some throws that I was like, as a true freshman, to make that sideline throw, a 20-yard out route or whatever it was with the running ability. And then LJ Martin looking like the top back in the country. But yet you made these guys look like a 5th grade Pee Wee team. Like it shows just how dominant your defense really has been, because BYU was able to move the ball against another good team in your conference, and they could not do like anything against Texas Tech. And so it's just like, why we have to separate it in a way. And that's why I'm really not worried about Morgantown at all. I think the weather will end up helping you actually in your defense, but we'll get into that later in the week. But yeah, it was an interesting week in Cincinnati, but I'm glad BYU won. Same story as Utah. For me, it was like, I want BYU to be 11-1. I want to face them again. And then I want the Big 12 to get 2 teams in. They won't, but I want them to. And we're going to get to that actually right now at Overreaction and Reality. First question I have for you guys as we move on to that is, will the Big 12 get 2 teams in the CFP? Overreaction or reality?
Overreaction. We're going to beat BYU in the Big 12 title game, and then they're going to get dropped out.
I think that's
what's going to happen.
Agreed. I don't think the game's going to be close again. And so I think 2 massive losses when BYU's already outside of the cut line is going to be too much.
I don't see even if the season ended after next week, I don't know which teams ahead of them are losing, or what can BYU do that's impressive enough to vault them above, Notre Dame and Oregon and OU, which I think they should be above, especially OU. I just don't know that they have the opportunity. They have the opportunity remaining if they make the Big 12 title game, of course. But then if you win that game, you're automatically in. I don't see a path for them outside of winning the Big 12 title. And I think it's not that I don't think they deserve it. I think they should be in. I think they should be 7 or 8 right now. It's the way that the committee has viewed them. I don't think that they have an at-large shot.
Something I wanted to talk to you all about. Sorry, Conrad. I feel like if the Holy War was this last week in rivalry week, the Big 12 would get 2 teams in. But because it was in the middle of the year before the initial ranks came out, like if BYU and Utah were both 1-loss teams at the end of the year, they'd both be top 10. I feel like the narrative around that game would be like, that's like a play-in game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like when you play the game matters.
Would BYU be as high up as they are if they had?
No, but Utah
Utah would be
Right.
really high up. Yeah,
Agreed.
so
I think Utah would be like 8 or 9.
And, okay, all this really goes to show you is how flawed the committee's process is. Like, a game that you play in September should matter just as much as a game you play in November. Looking at you, Alabama, Florida State did still happen. That was a real game this season. I guess Alabama's the only team that I could see maybe, like, if Alabama loses to Auburn and BYU wins and goes to the Big 12 title and just like loses by 10. Do they? I don't think the committee would leave out Bama for BYU.
They're out. No. Bama's out if they lose to Auburn for sure.
Agreed.
They're going to have two, but like also Bama's win against Georgia. Like I give Bama credit. Like they beat Georgia, they beat Mizzou on the road at the time, who was undefeated. They've got good wins at home. They beat Vanderbilt, who's 9-2. So their wins have definitely outweighed their losses to be in the top 10. Notre Dame also listened to the Broadway Shuffle, I think, last Thursday, because Marcus Freeman, talk about style points. They put that to show against Syracuse.
Syracuse is so bad, though.
But like, still, I looked at the score and I'm like, am I reading this right? That was crazy. But Conrad, I wanted to go to you on your thoughts on the committee and all that.
Well, Zyler, I've been kind of preparing myself because I am not the intellect when it comes to the college football playoff committee rankings that Zyler is. But Zyler, I just need to point some things out for you. OU beat Michigan 24-13. OU lost to Texas, who is actually a good football team at the end of the year. Arch Manning has the same stats as Julian Sayin at this point in the year, or very similar stats. They lost to Texas. They got blown out at Texas. I'm not discounting that. They lost to Ole Miss 26-34. OU did. They went to Tennessee, beat Tennessee. Then the very next week, or 2 weeks later, they went to Tuscaloosa and won 23-21. If we're talking resumes, that's not like bad. Like that's pretty good. Like I know Alabama lost Florida State, all that stuff, and I know OU hasn't looked pretty. I'm not saying their offense is great, but the resume does speak for itself in terms of wins and even who they lost to and when they lost to them as well. Losing to Ole Miss and then Texas, who at the time wasn't as good as they are now. But I think all of that should be taken into consideration, don't you, when you look at OU? Again, I'm not defending them as this amazing offense. They're not, especially now at the second half of the year, but I just find those wins to be somewhat compelling.
How many weeks in a row do you think OU has been outgained on offense?
Yeah, but they won the game. But they won the game. Winning the game's got to matter. Winning
the game matters. I promise you that is not a great team.
I'm not saying they're a great team. That's not the question.
Maybe uses this stuff. They'll say the eye test, like your red zone offense was terrible. They did this against Tech. You don't score enough points. They never apply the eye test to mid SEC teams, and it drives me nuts. OU.
So that's your beef here. It's the eye test against mid SEC teams.
OU, and if they win their next game, they deserve to be in. They have played their way in. You're playing a Missouri quarterback coming off a dislocated ankle who could barely push the ball down the field. Like I am not impressed by OU as a football team. The way they are winning is fluky. It's what everyone is accusing BYU of doing, and I promise you that house of cards is going to come crashing out.
But their schedule, their strength of schedule is much better than BYU's.
Their strength of record is worse than BYU's. What you've done against your schedule is worse than BYU's.
Going to Tennessee and going to Knoxville and going to Tuscaloosa and winning in both those places is more impressive than anything BYU has done all year.
I promise you, ESPN, who does not give any favors, their strength of record has BYU's resume more impressive than OU's.
I mean, I don't see it more impressive than OU's, and I don't think most people do
that's
either.
That's just the stats.
But going to OU BYU has not. I mean, I guess going to Knoxville and going to Tuscaloosa, I guess, does not mean anything.
No, it does mean something. It's really impressive.
BYU would have gotten clobbered in both of those games.
OU is getting more credit than their wins deserve based on the decals that they have beaten than BYU is getting for a lot of their wins.
It is a tough conversation because like there is something to be said about winning in environments like at Tennessee and at Bama that's not baked into like strength of record. That's different than winning at Arizona, which is what BYU did, which is still an impressive win, but like that environment is nothing compared to the other two.
Right.
So
I would
it's
agree
hard
with
to
that.
compare the two.
Here's where I fall on this, and this is I'll use Georgia Tech as an example. We were blasting Georgia Tech, but they're 9-1, right? So like the teams they're beating, regardless of who they've beaten, where they played, you got to still win the game. It comes down to did you win the football game or not? But you guys were harping on Georgia Tech being bad and blah 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 blah. And guess what? Georgia Tech plays a decent no. They play a decent team against Pitt and they get clapped. And you guys are proven right by the result on the field. And so though what sucks about college football is that there's all of these teams that we've now got to compare against each other in these metrics and like playing in Knoxville versus playing in Arizona. And that stuff matters. But these teams will get proven out, in my opinion. Like I still feel like Georgia Tech, they're going to go lose to Georgia. I hope they win, actually, because that'll almost guarantee you a spot in a bye. But they're going to, and they're going to go show that they're not a top 16 team. And I think OU, if they do run into an Oregon on the road in the first round, they'll get shown that they are not worthy of getting a bye or winning a national championship. But to Conrad's point, winning in really tough environments against an 8-3 Tennessee, a 10-1 Ole Miss, or they lost Ole Miss at home, but playing those games still matters. You've got to play the game, and you've still got to have the result on the field. And I think that's where college football, in my opinion, has gotten so far removed. Like we're comparing all these analytics and all these things, but it's like, man, I know you've got to have some sort of metric, but at the same time, you still got to go win a football game. And that's really what matters. And OU, to their credit, did that in Tuscaloosa, and they did that in Knoxville. And so and they did that against Michigan, who's 9-2 and who might be bad, but still might beat Ohio State. And then what? So it's still going to be a crazy last week of the season, which I can't wait to see. I think we're going to see a lot of these dominoes fall. And Z, you might be proven right. Like I think LSU could still go beat Oklahoma. So they've still got the talent on the field to beat a team like Oklahoma. Maybe they don't have the mindset, but they've got the talent.
Let me just read off the teams that Michigan has beaten in their 9-2 campaign. They beat New Mexico.
Z goes, I'm not going to listen to anything Brennan just said. Out the
winning
window.
the game matters. That should be the most important thing is, did you win? It doesn't matter if you had a 1% post-game win expectancy, blah, 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 blah. That has to matter. Like champagne problems if you didn't win the game, post-game win expectancy and got out game, but you managed to win. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And I completely agree with Brennan on that side. The thing that I'm always pushing back on is that people are getting credit for beating teams they perceive to be more difficult than they actually are. Arizona is a borderline top 20 team, and winning against them on the road, that is getting no respect. Anyway, I do just want to finish this Michigan rant. New Mexico, Central Michigan, Nebraska, Wisconsin, who's horrible, Washington, who's okay, at Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern, and Maryland. Which one of those wins is impressive to you?
Well, none of them.
I'm not talking to you. That's to the audience and really to my conscience, just to say Michigan is not that impressive.
But then if they do win against Ohio State, like that's the thing. It's like they'll be proven to not be a good team. And I think the committee has been ranking them fair. It's not like Michigan's over Utah. Like they're not like saying we think Michigan's really, really good. They've kind of kept them in that 18 to 20 range. But then if they really are in that range, they won't stand a chance on the same field as Ohio State and they'll lose. Yeah. And so it won't matter. I just feel like it's so tough when comparing an 11-1 or 10-2 in these teams, but we still have to reward the fact that you took care of what you're ultimately supposed to take care of. And I don't know if there's a perfect system for that. Obviously not, but it is hard to like justify leaving out an OU or leaving out a Alabama at 10-2 or someone if they took care of what they were supposed to do. Yeah. And BYU, you can make the same argument. I get that. But it's like, I do think Clayton's point is almost spot on. Like the environment in which you won, 110,000 people and one of the toughest environments on the planet, and winning that game convincingly, talking about Tennessee and Alabama, that matters. That matters more.
And it does. I completely agree. Tennessee, I just want to go through their wins right now, too. I just think it's fascinating.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to start from most impressive to least impressive. Arkansas, Mississippi State, Florida. Then they went New Mexico State, UAB, ETSU, Syracuse, and Kentucky. Like none of those
I love
teams.
how Kentucky was last behind ETSU.
I missed them and I saw a green.
Yeah.
It's like, why is Tennessee getting this respect as a top 20 team? Like, what have they done outside of blow out the margins against these awful like, and they're getting this respect, and then people are getting credit for beating them when there's nothing on Tennessee's resume that says, oh yeah, that's a top 20 team. And that's where BYU, and I'm sorry that I'm on the BYU train, this is the second year in a row that they've had a really freaking good team and they're not getting respect from the committee. And it sucks for them. Like I feel, and we're probably going to be in this position sooner or later, and then I'm really going to crash out. Like then I'm really going to be losing it.
Yes. But okay, well, Conrad, question though, and I'm going to you with this question. If Texas Tech loses to BYU though, Texas Tech has the resume, because I asked you the overreaction reality, and you guys go, overreaction, Tech's winning the Big 12. That was all of your assumptions, which is fair. But let's say Texas Tech loses, then you'd get two teams in. Texas Tech has the resume to justify dropping from the 5th seed to the 10th seed, right? Like if you lose to BYU in Arlington?
I have zero faith in the committee not dropping us to 11.
Yeah,
Really? I don't know.
I don't know.
If
I
it's
just
between us and Bama, they are going to put Bama in.
Yeah, they dropped Bama far further than 5 to 10 for their loss to OU.
Like,
Yeah,
remember, an undefeated conference champion got left out of the playoff. Like, do not think that the committee is going to give you any benefit of the doubt.
But then that's the conference championship debate, though, Conrad. Then, like, well, now why Texas Tech would have been better served going 11-1 and missing out on a tiebreaker? You know,
yeah.
than
I mean,
playing
I guess if you, there's just so many ways to look at it. Because if you lose, I mean, you shouldn't get punished for winning. I mean, let's just say you shouldn't get punished for playing another game and losing that game. But let's just say that Texas Tech blows out BYU again. I mean, that's not a good look for BYU, to where your two losses are against a Texas Tech team that could very well. I think Texas Tech would be the exact same thing, better than OU if they were playing in the SEC this year. That's obviously my rose-colored glasses opinion, but I think there's some merit there. I mean, you would hope not, I guess you could say at that point, because of what we've done all year, that if we did lose, and I would assume that if we lost, it'd be a close game, that you would still get in at 10 or something like that. But then again, it's so hard to say, because it really is unpredictable in terms of what the committee is going to do from week to week.
And Conrad, and sorry, I've been talking a lot. Conrad, you bring up a great point. What you said there about the unpredictability, this committee has shown the only thing they're consistent in is being inconsistent. I have no idea what they're going to value and what they're going to evaluate and what they care about. There's just no real way to measure that.
So
would
it be better if Mac Rhodes was still there?
Dude, we've got to talk about Dave Aranda's like voodoo magic that like anytime his back is against the wall, something insane happens and he saves his job. Like, oh no, Mac Rhodes, it's time for your affair to get leaked. Like, I need to save my job.
Like, we need some stability. We need some stability here in Waco.
Wait, I didn't know it was
offline.
that.
We'll talk offline.
Oh wow. Okay. Sorry, I was not trying to take it. I mean,
Conrad's not on the Twitter.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Space. You got to listen to Locked On Baylor like Zyler does to find out that information.
I am so locked into Locked On Baylor. I really am. I send you guys screenshots all the time. Like, dude, this episode is crazy.
It is hilarious. Zyler's favorite podcast is when Baylor loses and he gets to listen to Locked On Baylor reaction.
It really is. I go to bed, I turn it on, and I fall right asleep with these just amazing dreams. Just Baylor fans crashing out. It's hilarious.
But okay, so Conrad, you bring up. I wanted to touch on Zyler's point, though. You made the Mac Road joke, which was good and funny, and it's a Baylor dig, which we love here on the Broadway Shuffle. But I think Zyler is absolutely correct. There's no consistency at all here. They don't even know what they're going to get right or wrong. So you just hope that the ball bounces your way this week. You hope that Texas loses to A&M. You hope that Georgia Tech can maybe beat Georgia. You just kind of want things to happen where, we're just going to put in BYU and Tech. I think that's the best case scenario. And so you're kind of rooting for chaos outside of your game in Morgantown, and then you'll be okay. Which is easier.
Let me say this. I'm gonna spoil one of my picks. Texas is not losing to Texas A&M. They are not losing. Marcel Reed is going to be exposed for the quarterback he is. Talk about strength of record or whatever metric you use that I don't even understand, to be completely honest, because I'm not an analyst guy. I'm more of an eye test guy. Marcel Reed has played like 7 of the bottom 8 teams in the SEC and looked amazing against them. Wait until he plays Anthony Hill and that Texas defense, which on the back end they're not great right now, but their defensive line is still pretty solid. So I think Texas is going to beat A&M, but that's a whole different conversation we can have on Wednesday's episode.
We'll get to that. Let's get to that on Thursday morning. I don't want any Texas love here, as I'm still coming off a nice bye week, enjoying just with the Texas Tech conversation. But let's transition. We'll get to a lot of that on Thursday. We'll preview picks games too, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that episode. But let's get to basketball real quick. Clayton, I want to go to you. I was seeing a ton of stuff on Twitter. We were texting about it. You're playing basketball in November, and yet everyone seems to be worried that this team is no good. So overreaction to reality, Clayton, we should be worried about our basketball team after the beatdown that Purdue gave you in the Bahamas.
Reality.
Oh, okay.
I feel like,
Clayton was one of those guys then. Okay.
That's not where you thought I was going to go, but
I must have missed your burner.
yeah, I will caveat that with saying that, like, I still think this team will be better at the end of the year than we are right now. They're obviously still getting integrated, but I don't see it with this roster, man. I feel like against other top tier teams, it seems like Toppin and Anderson are just going to have to play perfectly for us to win, and they're going to do that, and we're going to beat some really good teams. But I think the supporting cast this year is just not like some of these guys. Tyree Bryan honestly looks completely unplayable to me right now. And hopefully, that changes. I think we'll be a tournament team, but I am worried about this team in a sense of like comparing our expectations preseason to what we are now.
Okay. Zyler, are you going reality as well? I'm a little surprised. I thought we were going to be the relaxed group here, just saying, but Clayton came out hot. Are you going to join him?
Yeah, reality pretty easily. Full caveat, I trust McCaslin more than pretty much any, and I said this, any non-Kelvin Sampson coach to get this roster right. I don't know that you upgraded many roster spots from last year, and you are not nearly as deep, and you weren't deep last year. And then when you go up against a team that I don't think is very good they're good defensively. They're not elite defensive. That's not Houston. That's not some of the teams that you're going to face later in the year. And you can't score. Like, some of your sets are just not working. Like the top end at the block extended feed is just not working right now. And we keep going to it. And I trust McCaslin. I don't like what I see from this roster defensively. And Christian is getting asked to do a lot. And I think this is something we talked about. Like, what does it look like when he has to take a step up in usage and he plays on the ball primarily? And it's just a new role for him, and he's young. Yeah, it's just a little bit clunky right now. I expect you to get better, but you're down into the 30s now in KenPom after starting 12th. So long way to climb for this roster. And all of us have played sports. You never want to hear your coach say, I'm excited to get to practice next week. That is like the worst thing you can hear as a player. I don't know if we have the defensive dogs to really, get after it. Now, and I will say this. I was very anti-Jalen Petty before the tournament, and he really grew on me. He plays hard, and I can at least respect the way that his mistakes come. And he's playing hard. He's giving a lot of effort on defense, and he gives more effort than pretty much anyone I saw over the weekend. And maybe I'm wrong in that, but I was impressed by him. He impressed me the most this weekend. You got to figure out the defensive stuff, though, man. It was rough.
Conrad?
Reality, losing by 30 points. I mean, I really don't care who you're playing, but if you're, we were ranked 15th. I don't know what we're ranked now, if those rankings have even come out, but losing by 30 points against a team that you're at least pegged to be, both top 25 teams, and you lose by 30. If they're beating you by 30, that means you're probably a lot worse than where you're ranked. And so right now I'd say reality, but then again, we could very well get it turned around. That would not shock me at all with Grant and the staff we have in place.
Wow. I didn't know we were all going there. I'm going overreaction. Look, One, I don't want to peak in basketball in November, especially with a new roster that's meshing in 6 games in, and you're going up against a Purdue team that pretty much returned everyone and the best point guard in the entire country. They've been playing together for years. I mean, these guys, that's like the worst team you'd want to face. You're new and coming in, and then they have been playing basketball and they know each other well. Like they're completely already meshed. You're 6 games in. I don't know. I just like talk to me in January about basketball. My mind, one, is so focused on football, but two, I just feel like last year we talked about the team. Zyler, you mentioned not a lot of depth here. Elijah Hawkins was pretty much non-existent for like the first, couple of months of the season. Then all of a sudden you're in the Elite Eight and you've got JT Toppin, who is one of the best players in the country. I think you can form some sort of consistency on offense and form some type of defensive ability to get stops in key moments to still be a force in the Big 12. If I'm wrong, I'll be wrong, here in a couple of weeks. I am a little worried about the fact that you did schedule Arkansas, LSU, Duke, and now how you looked against Purdue, you're kind of like, well, you're going to need some key wins, some non-conference wins
Last year's
to
roster
help your
needed,
resume.
Yeah, last year's roster needed this year's schedule. This year's roster needed last year's schedule.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
You're
missing Chance McMillan, man. I feel like we're missing like how good Chance was, and he could go create his own shot and was that guy that could go get you a bucket outside of JT or Christian, and you just don't have him. And obviously D5, who's playing lights out at North Carolina State, by the way, early this season.
Last thought on basketball, though. You don't have anybody that is getting to the rim off the dribble. We don't get, if you think about it, we don't take any sort of layup attempts at the rim. Our rim attempts are JT. And it's and it's not, I'm like, yeah, Christian is just not quick. Jalen, I wish, could get to the rim, but he's going to have the Hawkins problem where he gets to the rim and there's people that are legitimately a foot taller than him there. And I'll be interested to see what they do with the one spot. I think Christian almost, I don't know. I just don't know that you have a point guard thing. I don't know. Anyway, we could talk about it.
Grant had talked to us on our interview with him, and he'd let me know that I could play for him if I needed to. And I did text him after the Bahamas and just said, if you need me to come out, man, I can. But maybe wait till this week of practice, because like you mentioned, anytime the coach said I can't wait for practice for me, that meant I was running a lot of lines, Yeah. So I'd rather not get into the swing of things sprinting like crazy. So we'll see, but I think they'll get it turned around. Just let's relax and give a couple weeks and see what happens in Dallas Fort Worth against Arkansas and LSU here as well too. But need more time together. So all right, well, let's close the show as always with our Tommy Tubervilles of the week. And guys, I get to go again with a fired head coach. Breaking news yesterday, Sunday evening. Justin Wilcox from Cal is been relieved of his duties there. California is essentially a no man's land as a football program, playing in the ACC from California. He was fired, and so that is now, I believe, 5 weeks that I get to continue you get fired, you get to be Brennan's Tommy. It's been really easy for me this year, and so long, Justin Wilcox. We'll see what happens. Another job in college football opens up. And we'll get to the coaching carousel a little bit on Thursday as well, too. But that's my Tommy Tuberville of the week. Conrad, I hear you got 2 tonight.
Yeah, I have one primary one and then one honorable mention. My primary one is a school that there is no love for here on the Broadway Shuffle. Already mentioned a couple times. Baylor University, a lot of reasons. Obviously, I've been at high school games with more people than they've gotten at their football games this year. I've been at high school games where fans care more about their winning, their program, their school actually winning. I mean, Baylor University football is just an absolute train wreck right now. And then announcing you're going to retain Dave Aranda because I think granted, I'm not mad at them necessarily. They're going through a transition time, so why not keep being mediocre and even maybe decline even more? Because who are you going to hire right now? Where are you getting that money with the buyout? Like, it's just Baylor's not in a good spot. So Baylor football, you are my Tommy Tuberville of the week. You lost 41-17 to Arizona as well. And then my honorary Tommy Tuberville of the week is the reporter who, in a post-game press conference, asked USC head football coach Lincoln Riley, what are your thoughts on the fact that your team's rivals want you to be signed to a contract extension so they can keep beating you? Just a classless question, tone deaf question, crazy question really to ask. I mean, it feels like to me that's just not, I'm all for asking fair questions, especially to head coaches who make a lot of money. But man, that's crazy. I don't know if I'm alone in that. I feel like the internet is with me that is absolutely crazy to ask of a head coach. And Lincoln's reaction was honestly, exactly what it should have been, in my opinion. So do y'all agree on that? Disagree on that? What were y'all's thoughts on that? I feel like that question it's just crazy. That's the only word I have for it.
Agreed.
Yeah, it was just I don't know who that reporter was. I'd love to know who they work for. But yeah. But Lincoln Riley doesn't win big games. 8-3 USC out of the playoff. Boo-hoo, cry. Sorry.
That's okay. He'll be at Florida next year.
I have no feelings for Lincoln Riley. So, Z, who's your Tommy of the week?
Yeah, I've got two, and they're shared. It's the Florida State Athletic Department and it's the Baylor Athletic Department. Florida State specifically, after your coach loses a game in one of the wildest fashion. I don't know if y'all saw this punt where Florida State, I forget who they were playing. Was it NC State?
Uh-huh.
They punt the ball, NC State does, and somehow it bounces off of a Florida State player's helmet, and NC State recovers the ball at the line of scrimmage from where they punted it. It was like a 0-yard punt. But then Florida State immediately comes out and announces that Mike Norvell is going to get retained. Baylor has announced that Dave Aranda is going to get retained after shocking results from both of those programs. I wish they would spare everybody the service and just say, we do not have the money. We are keeping our coach because we do not have the money. There's no need to dress it up any other way. We all know what's happening. You don't have to give out these big paragraphs. Just say we're broke and we can't compete at this level anymore. That's all I want to hear. Give it to me straight. So Florida State and Baylor, you are my Tommy Tubervilles of the week.
Zyler, that is interesting that Baylor University, a school that costs more than 95% of people in the United States make a year, doesn't have any money. I just find that very interesting.
And, I'm ragging on Baylor. Last time we played them, they did kind of take us to the woodshed, but it's just
that
really
was when
funny.
We were broke.
Yeah, we got our money up and things are different now. It'll never go badly again for Texas Tech football, and we'll never lose to Baylor again. So excited for that future.
Let me push, or not push back, but just say real quick, I don't understand. I will say I'm not mad at Florida State and Baylor in a sense, because who are you gonna go hire?
Thank you. That was my other point. Who you hire is a good football coach. Matt Rule was not a highly sought after coach. Joey McGuire was an associate head coach. Dan Lanning was a coordinator. Kirby Smart was a coordinator. Great coaches exist, and I think it's bullcrap, and it's people not wanting to make hard decisions that they say stuff like this. That is, if we ever came out and said we do not want to compete in this coaching carousel because we think our program is not good enough to attract top talent, I would institutionalize myself. It's just it is a great way to say that I don't think we have that good of a job, and I don't think I'm good at identifying talent. Therefore, I will not be choosing a new head coach. That's what
fair. It's a good point on Joey.
Think of all the winning coach. You have the classic Nick Sabans, but a lot of these guys are not former head coaches. The best guys in the sport, when Lincoln Riley was hired, he was not a head coach. He was the OC at OU.
Mm-hmm.
Go find great coaches.
Eric Morris is one of them. Eric Morris at UNT, man, 10-1, coached under Leach, coached under Cliff.
Oklahoma State head coach Eric Morris.
He'll be in the playoff.
And I'm so happy that Zyler, you don't think he's going there?
I think I don't know. I don't know where Eric Morris is going. Arkansas is going to take a swing at everything.
I'm just so happy that I'm not going to have to watch Eric Morris at Baylor.
Yeah. It's
a lot. And I wanted to get into the Texas two-step on Thursday, Clay, because you sent a text out earlier, and I want to get to your Tommy as well, but that you've got UNT, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, SMU, maybe a Texas if things go nuts. You've got a lot of teams that could, from Texas, get in. We'll get into that on Thursday's episode because I thought that was a really interesting point. Looking forward to the weekend, but who's your Tommy Tuberville of the week?
Yeah, you guys kind of touched on mine earlier. I don't know if this is the correct use of the Tommy Tuberville of the week, considering it's the fraud of the week, and mine is Syracuse. No one would accuse Syracuse of being good, but the way they started that game, I've seen a lot of beatdowns in college football. I don't know if I've ever seen a bigger massacre between two Power 4 teams than Notre Dame Syracuse. This is how the game started. Pick six, punt blocked, return for a touchdown on their second drive. Another pick six, 3 and out. A 2-play 59-yard drive touchdown, another 3 and out, a 3-play 69-yard drive touchdown for Notre Dame. Notre Dame had 21 points before their offense ever stepped foot on the field. They scored 35 points in the first quarter in 5 plays. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
My word. I didn't realize it was that bad.
That's why I said earlier when I saw the score and saw how they scored, I'm like, am I reading this right? How do you have 21 points without touching the field? I was shocked, you know?
Yeah, it was absurd.
Yeah, I think that's a fair Tommy, man. Well, man, that was a lot to get into, but it's going to be a great week. I cannot wait for Thursday, and I'm really looking forward to previewing this game. And
we're actually releasing the episode on Wednesday, Brennan.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Thank you. That's Thanksgiving.
We're not releasing that on Thanksgiving Day. Nobody would listen to that.
You're right. I totally forgot. So we'll be releasing that episode on Wednesday. So look forward to our preview episode there, and we hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving as well, since we will be talking about that on Wednesday too. Conrad, thanks for reminding me. I should have said that an hour ago, but that's why you're here, man. Well, we'll see you guys on Wednesday. We'll put out a tweet and remind everyone as well too. But hope you guys enjoyed the episode. As always, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or Texas Tech Plus. And we're always joined by Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler. And I am Brennan. So we will see you shufflers on Wednesday. Happy Thanksgiving week. Enjoy the food. Enjoy the football. We'll talk to you next time here on the Broadway Shuffle.
He makes the catch. He's going all the way. 20, 15.